welcome back to the Girly Girl Bookworm. So 2 videos in 1 week. Aren't you super lucky? So we are going to do a last 5 reads wrap up for you. I feel like my reading has definitely kicked into gear. I read 13 books for the month of April. And I looked back at all the past months, and the last time that I read 13 books in a month was September of last year, and I actually read more than 13 in September, but like every month leading up to September was like 10, 8, 6. Like they were very low numbers. So like I haven't read this many in such a long time that it feels so good, especially because there really weren't a ton of readathons, and yes, I had April break, but I was gone for most of April break, so I actually didn't read during April break, so it felt really good to like get there and not feel like, oh, a readathon is why I read this much, or audiobooks are why I read this much, because I have stopped reading audiobooks, so like, it just feels very good to feel like I'm getting back to myself, even though like probably in another month I'll go back to not being as active, but yeah, I'm really excited. So I have the last 5 for you right here. And yeah, this is where my April ended up ending, because I ended up finishing my last book on April 30th, which was last day of April. So these are my last April books. The first book is the book that I was telling you about the last time, and that was The Wife, the Maid, and the Mistress by Ariel Lawhon. And this is a historical fiction novel set in the 1920s. No, 1930s. Apologize. This takes place in the 1930s, and it follows this wife, the maid, and the mistress of Judge Joseph Crater. And he was I believe he was on the Supreme Court for New York. And they have not been able to figure out if like it was a murder or what, because this man just kind of disappears. So obviously he's dead, but we don't know if he's murdered, if he just died, if he disappeared to try to run away. We don't know what's going on, so that's why we follow the wife, who was obviously close to him, the maid, who was obviously around the house a lot, and his mistress. It does every now and then give you like a little sneak peek of like what it is like. I don't know if we necessarily have the specific year, but it kind of fast forwards to like when the wife is in her like 70s-ish, because she's dying herself, and she's meeting with an investigator that was investigating the disappearance of her husband all those years prior. And this is based kind of loosely on a true story. There was a judge, Joseph Crater, who had gone missing, and they never solved the crime. So this is kind of a fictionalized version of what they think could have happened based off of all the facts and all the information that they developed and found when they were investigating it back in the 1930s. So it was definitely intriguing, definitely interesting. The ending, I, for some reason, did not see coming at all. It was very surprising. It was very interesting. There's mobs and gangsters, and like really it was good. Definitely a slow read, so if you're thinking like, oh, it's a thriller, edge of your seat, it's not. It's definitely something that reveals itself over time and peels some layers off, and it's very an intricate and detailed experience, considering that it's only like 300 pages, I think. Yeah, it's like just 300 pages. So it's interesting how well developed all 3 of these women were, considering this book is pretty short. So I enjoyed it. I believe I gave it 4 out of 5 stars, and I really recommend it. I'm surprised that it's not more prevalent on YouTube, to be honest. Then after that, I apparently decided it was Orange Week, and I tried to continue with Nice Try Jane Sinner by Leanne Olk. I'm not really sure how you say her name. This is a YA novel, and it follows a girl who, as of right now, we know that she is not willing to continue at the school that she's at because she's refusing to see this therapist, and she has the option to either go back to her other high school or join this like community college program, which like lets her take college classes but also like get her GED kind of at the same time. And so she decides to do that. We're really not sure like why she does not want to go back to her high school. We don't really know what the situation was there yet. And when she goes to this college, her one request to her parents was that she gets to move out. She finds this experience that lets her kind of, it reminded me kind of like Real World style, where like she gets to live in this house with like 5 other or 6 other college students, and they get to film them, and it's like a YouTube series following their lives. And it's kind of almost like Survivor though, because you can get eliminated and there's challenges and you can win things. It was interesting. It's written in a really unique manner where it's her writing journal entries, but whenever people are talking, it's written like a dialogue instead. So like any description or of events and things like that are written regularly in paragraphs, but then the rest of it is written like that. Overall, I didn't really like this story. I'm unhauling this already. Like, if you look on my Goodreads, it already says I've unhauled it, which means I'm just going to put it in my unhaul pile. I just did not find Jane Sinner a character that I really liked. I don't think she was supposed to be likable by any means, but I just did not jive with her personality. I just felt like, I don't know, by the end I was just like trudging along, trying to like force myself through this. I was the opposite opinion. A lot of people really like this book and give it 4 or 5 stars, and unfortunately that just like was not the case for me. So unfortunately this is going to be unhauled. I just didn't jive with it, and it wasn't even like the storytelling way. I did not really like any of the characters. I can't tell you one character in this book that I actually liked or cared for. It had a message that I feel like was a good message. It's just it took a weird route to get to it, and I just wasn't crazy about it. It does take place in Canada though, so if that's something that you're interested in, you like to read that kind of story or like setting, I would definitely check this one out. But for me, it's going in my unhaul pile. The next book I read, so it was funny because that night my husband was like, you know, you haven't asked me to pick out a book for you in a long time. And I went, you know what? You're right. I haven't. So I literally took out an entire shelf of books and I was like, help me. So he ended up picking out a book for me, and he ended up telling me to read The Tea Planter's Wife by Dinah Jeffries. And this is another historical fiction. So I'm actually getting really back into historical fiction, which is really nice. This takes place in a country that I'm gonna butcher. Ceylon, Ceylon is where it takes place. And this woman is moving from England to be with her husband. Her husband owns this like tea plantation. And I believe this is also in the 1930s. Let's see. Nope, just kidding. It starts in 1913, and then it goes through the years. And then that's the prologue, and then when you finally meet our main character, it's 1925, so almost 1930s, and then it travels obviously through a really a couple years. I believe about 10 years. And so she's moving from England to this other country to be with her husband, who, again, like I said, has a tea plantation. He's pretty well off. But she gets there and things are a little bit fishy. He used to have a wife prior to her, so she's trying to put the pieces together with that. He's got a sister who is 100% unlikable. And it's just really about their life together. And for a while I was reading this book and I went, there's nothing that I really like, but there's nothing that I don't like about this book either. It was just kind of chugging along and taking its twists and kind of taking its turns. There's a guy that like she develops a friendship with, but her husband doesn't like him, and there's a lot of dynamics going on with these characters. It's definitely a character-driven story versus events. But by the end, I was just gripped, and I just wanted to see how this family was going to get closure around some of these events that were taking place. And I just found it really unique and really interesting. And I really don't want to say a lot of things because I don't want to spoil it, because basically the book just kind of tells you that things are kind of eerie and that she's trying to find her place and trying to figure out what's going on with the ex-wife and not ex-wife, but the dead wife and things like that. And I don't know, I ended up by the end of this really enjoying it, and I did end up giving it 4 stars. So it was a really good historical fiction, but definitely on the slower side, definitely nothing super impressive until you probably get near the end, and that's when things start tying together and things start making more sense. And I definitely ended up enjoying this one. So this one is staying. So if you notice, I'm putting the staying books here, the unhaul books here, and I've got another one for you. So in that same pile, so once I finished that, I went, Patrick picked me out another one, and he picked out Idaho by Emily Ruskovich. I had seen this on Helene Jepsen's channel a while back before I picked this up, and it sounded like something that was totally up my alley. People were giving it 4 and 5 stars. It sounded like there was a mystery going on with a possible murder and things like that, and I was really let down by this book. It follows a couple different characters and timelines, and I did not jive with the timeline perception. So it follows this family, I guess you can say. This man is married to this woman, and she's one of the ones that we get a primary perspective from. He was married prior to another woman who we believe had some tragic incident with his children. I don't know how to explain it without really spoiling things. But we're following her and his ex-wife, but we're jumping timelines like nobody's business. We were changing from 1995 to 2007, back to 1995 to 2012, and it was just too jumpy. And we got perspectives that I didn't necessarily care for. They were getting perspectives, random jumps of perspectives within the timelines, and I just felt very bored by this. I did not really like this. For 300 pages, it felt like it was taking me forever. I didn't really care for any of the characters. I felt like I was left wanting more. I felt like there were so many things that were kind of unanswered and things that just did not tie up and did not make sense to me. And so unfortunately, I disagree with a lot of people. I went back on, and there's so many people who gave this 4 and 5 stars, and unfortunately it was not for me. I feel like this jumping time period just was not effective for me. Going back and forth is normally fine, but when it's going way back and forth and you don't know who you're reading from one minute and the next minute it switches, and it's just, I found it more confusing than it was worth. So unfortunately this one is going in my unhaul pile. And then book 5, my last book that I have to review for you, is The Good Goodbye by Kara Buckley. This was also in that pile that he could have chose from. The other two that he could have chose from were If We Were Villains and Something in the Water. And these are kind of books that have been sitting on my shelf for a while. Not a super long time. Probably about 6 months, if not a little bit longer, since last summer. And so they haven't been sitting there forever, but they just feel like they've been haunting me. So I decided to pick up this one because I was trying to think if I could find something a little bit quicker paced than the last few books that I've been reading. And this one was supposed to be kind of like a thriller-ish. It follows these two girls who are cousins, and we know that there is a fire that they are both involved in, and they're at college, and so they're at the hospital, and it kind of follows perspectives of one of the cousins' mothers, and then it follows the perspectives of the two girls, but the two girls are obviously flashbacks because they are at this point life support and comas and things like that, and so we're getting their past building up to figure out what happened, what started this fire, why did this fire happen, and things like that. I found it an easy read. The writing style was very easy to read. This one also kind of bounces back and forth. You would be in the middle of someone's chapter and it would kind of all of a sudden flashback, which was kind of hard to keep track of what's happening right now, what's going on, which can add to the element of mystery, I guess you can say. There were definitely elements of this that I did enjoy. In the end, though, I did only end up giving this 3.5 stars. I just felt by the end, I wanted more. I feel what happened just wasn't enough for me, especially with all the build-up and all the drama, and they're in college, so then you've got the drama that they're dealing with, but their parents also have drama with each other, and it just felt like there was so much drama, and then when it all was said and done, wasn't all that dramatic to me. So, unfortunately, I did not love it as much as I wanted to. I think I'm going to, for now, hold on to it. I don't know. I'm trying to do this thing where I'm really trying to keep books that I know that I really enjoyed, that I liked, So this might end up getting unhauled eventually, but we'll see. But it was all right. It was definitely good. It was better than the other 2 that I'm unhauling. So those are the last 5 books that I read. This morning I started The Silent Patient. So I'm really excited. I only got like 14 pages in, but that writing style seems really good. Everybody's been raving about it. I've been avoiding reviews because I want to have my own honest opinion. I know the reviews have been great, so I'm nervous that it's going to be too overhyped, but we'll see. I'm going to try it and see how it goes. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I am so excited to feel like I'm back. I know I feel like I say that a lot, but I feel like this time it's like actually truthful. So I hope that it works out this way. And I will see you guys really, really soon. Bye, everybody.